There's been a lot of talk lately about an upcoming market crash. It's all over the internet, TV, social media, people telling you what to do, how to prepare, and how to react. So I'm throwing my hat in the ring, not to be dramatic, not to predict anything, but to offer a level-headed perspective for anyone who feels anxious about investing right now. Before we start, as always, this is not personalized financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm simply sharing what I would do if I were preparing for a potential market downturn. I am recording this on the same day the market drops about 2%. That is purely coincidence, but I know for some people, days like this trigger panic, fear, and even not wise selling off of their assets. And I'll be upfront right now, nothing in this video is new or flashy or groundbreaking. I'm not going to give you some insane end of world take. This is boring, and boring is usually the best thing to do, especially in times of fear where there's a lot of uncertainty. The very first thing I would do is build at least 4 months of expenses in a high yield savings or money market account. You'll often hear 1 to 3 months recommended. I've also heard 3 to 6 months, which I align with a little bit more. But personally, I think anything below 3 months really cuts it short. If a recession hits and unemployment go up during recessions, hiring slows, if you were to lose your job searches take way longer than people expect. If you've been in the job market at all recently, or if you graduated college at all recently, you know this better than really anybody has known it in a long time. I applied for my current job in December of not last year, but just in December. And I didn't start that job until March. That's months without income after initially applying for a job. If you only have 1 to 3 months of savings, you can end up relying on debt much faster than you planned. And emergency funds also obviously protect you from random car repairs, insurance deductibles if you have to, and have any medical procedures done, and just general unexpected expenses. Most importantly, it keeps you from going in debt just to live. Reminder though, this money is not for dry powder in a down market or for investing. It's not for timing the market. It's just basically insurance. So let's walk through an example. Let's say your monthly expenses are $3,000. That means 4 months of your expenses would be $12,000. Now, you want to save up that $12,000. You're covered if you lose your job, hiring drags on, and just for when life happens. The peace of mind that you get from that is so much more important than you realize during market volatility, knowing that even if you were to lose your job, you'd be okay at least for long enough, and you'd be able to find some form of a paycheck until you get back on your feet. Next, I would eliminate high interest debt. Once you have that cash cushion, it's time to move on to this step. Now, a lot of people out there would say get rid of all debt, and some people would even maybe classify high interest debt different than I do. But most people that watch my videos are in their 20s and early 30s, and I personally define high interest debt as anything above 8 to 9%. So let me walk you through an example. Let's say you have $3,000 credit card debt at 25% interest rate, student loans at 3%, maybe about $20,000, and you have a car loan at maybe $10,000 car loan at 8% interest. I would aggressively pay off the credit card debt first. That interest rate is brutal, and it's going to drag your financial life in the mud with you if you let it hang around. But what about the car loan? And this is where things get a lot more nuanced, especially if you're preparing for a market downturn. If it's a reliable car that you plan to keep for 5+ years and the loan is manageable, it's an 8% interest rate, it's not too much of your monthly income, I don't think you're foolish at all for just making the minimum and doing other things with your money. But if it's a bad deal on a junker car that you've had for a long time and you're fearful of having to put more money into it, it may make sense to pay off that car, get rid of the loan, and then that way you can use your cash for either you can save up more cash and buy a car, or use that cash to fix it if you really have to, instead of fixing a car with a loan. It just feels so much worse than fixing a car that you actually own. And then lastly, the student loans. Personally, anything below 6%, I'm not rushing to pay off before investing. As always, paying it off will never hurt you, but it's often not the most efficient way to use your dollars compared to investing. So now you've done 2 things. You have a solid emergency fund to cover yourself in any sort of economic downturn, and you've cleared up some high interest payments to free up your cash flow. Now what? This is personally where I think that I differ from a lot of investing advice, especially even if you're preparing for a crash, and that is to start investing 15% of your paycheck into retirement accounts and into diversified broad market ETFs. If you're already doing this, great. If you haven't started, start now. Even if you're predicting a market crash coming this year, I would not stockpile cash waiting for the perfect time. I wouldn't buy commodities like gold and silver, hoping that they, could protect your value somehow. And I wouldn't gamble on random altcoins, hoping that one pops during a crash. More money has been lost waiting for crashes than during actual crashes. It's the old cliche, but it's very true. Time in the market beats timing the market. If a crash happens, congrats. You're buying assets on sale now with your dollar cost averaging from your paycheck. If it doesn't, congrats. Your investments have been growing. Now, there is one nuance I want to add to this. If a crash hits and you're genuinely worried about losing your job, it may make sense to temporarily pause investing to build extra cash. I emphasize the may. You really need to be truly 100% honest with yourself here. If cash flow is at a real risk and layoffs are a genuine concern, the worst outcome isn't market volatility or your portfolio going down and it's being forced to use debt or selling off assets to survive. Now, step 4. You're preparing for a market crash. You've got your cushion against life happening, against losing your job. You've cleared up some cash flow by paying off some high interest debt. And now you're investing 15% of your income, dollar cost averaging into the market. And the market still hasn't crashed. At that point, it's honestly a good problem to have. If you don't have kids yet and you don't have to save for college or a car for your kid or anything like that, I'd start working towards getting to a 20 to 25% savings rate, or using the extra cash for a large fund like a future down payment or a vacation or something like that. From here, your personal goals matter more than fear-based decisions. And you're on a trajectory to financial freedom and independence that you haven't been on before. Now, if the market does crash and you're in this step, again, go back through the other steps. Have you had to go into your emergency fund at all? If yes, build it back up. If no, did you acquire any more high interest debt? If yes, pay that debt off. If no, go to step 3, get back to investing 15% or more depending on your goals. Again, this video was not meant to be groundbreaking, just a calm, rational framework for dealing with uncertainty like we're in now. Sometimes I think things get lost when fear dominates the conversation. Markets go up, markets go down, but having cash, low debt, and the debt that you do have is a horrible interest rate and a consistent investing plan puts you in a position of strength no matter what happens in the market. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope this helped ground things a bit.